Hello, my name is Jim Bellacera, and I want to welcome you to Within the Millionaire Mind. The lesson is going to be on taking ownership of your life. So, when taking ownership of your life, it's really about determining your future. So, taking ownership of your life is the first step in changing your life. Regardless of whether you've had successes or failures in the past, the key is what you do from here forward to ensure that you have success in your life. They say that the past tells all, right? If you look in the past, you can determine the future. That's assuming you don't change what's going on to make a difference in the future. So if you look at a rearview mirror, you can see how much smaller it is in comparison to the window in front of you. And when you think about that, the window in front of you is so much larger, it should be relevant to the dreams and hopes and goals that you have for you and your life. They say there's the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. And yet, people continue to repeat themselves over and over in their life, whether it's through constant failures or trying to fix bad relationships. I mean, I'm sure you know people that have failed over and over again. And you have to ask yourself, how is it that someone can fail so many times? Don't they learn from their experiences? And the answer is probably no, because they're so busy never listening. They never ask to learn. And the same thing with a bad relationship. I'm thinking about the people that you know that continually to get involved in relationships where they're constantly hanging on to someone that's not really giving them what they want. And they think, oh, well, if I'm around them long enough, they're just going to change. The reality is you can't change anyone. The only one you can actually change is yourself, because that's the only person you can control. So, people like to say, well, I'm a victim of circumstances. For example, I'm a loner, or I don't know anyone, or I've always been afraid of rejection. I don't believe I have anything to offer, so I'm a victim of circumstances. Well, we got to get to the point where we believe that we're worthy of a better relationship, better business, better job, more money, that we deserve it. You see, everything revolves around what we believe inside our own minds. That's the reality. Now, I'm going to share an interesting story. You may and may not have heard of this young lady, Bethany Hamilton. She was world-renowned in her age group to be one of the best surfers in the world, literally in the world. And then she got attacked by a shark and lost her arm. She had a choice to make. Do I become a victim of my circumstances, or do I act like a survivor and be grateful and look forward to the future? Well, what's interesting about this young lady is she went on to inspire so many people that they actually made a movie. Now, why didn't they make movies of a lot of other people that have been bitten by sharks? And I'm sure there's been other people that have great attitudes and have gone forward with their life. But this young lady was so inspirational because after losing her arm, she got back up on the board. Literally got back up on the board. She had to learn how to surf all over again because now she didn't have the balance of two arms. But yet she was willing to do it. She became determined, and she decided she wanted to be an example to other young people, not just the young generation, but also all of us. And so the movie was made. I have to tell you, this is such an inspirational story. You need to go and check it out, because people like Bethany help us to overcome ourselves. Now, I'm not sure if you know this gentleman. His name is Nick. I'm not going to butcher his last name by trying to say it, so I'm just going to spell it. V as in Victor, U-J-I-C-I-C. So Nick, so what's unique about Nick? Well, Nick was born with no arms and no legs. That's right, no arms and no legs. But he decided to live life without limits. He chose to live life to the fullest possible, even with what you and I would call handicaps. I'm sure he doesn't look at them as handicaps. I think he looks at them as, well, it's an inconvenience. But here's my point. After watching him actually speak one time, and I've watched him speak more than once, but my point is, it was so inspirational, so amazing. He never really talked down about himself. He talked about how it gave him a different outlook on life. And he decided that if he had to do it all over again, would he want to have his arms and his legs? And he said no. He said he was given purpose. Wow. Talk about an amazing man. A man who realized that, he was born with no arms and no legs, but yet he had purpose in life, that he could impact the lives and literally now millions and millions of people all around the world. But just like anybody else, he has hopes and dreams and goals, and he one day wanted to be married and have a family. When I saw him speak, it was prior to him getting married, obviously prior to him having a family. And I got to tell you, when you have dreams and you have goals and you take ownership of your life, you can control your destiny. You can speak things into existence. You know the DVD called The Secret, and they talk about speaking things into existence. But let me make something perfectly clear. You can speak things into existence because you believe that they're going to happen, but you have to put action with those words. And I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with you because there's so many people that got caught up in speaking things into existence. They thought that they could just say the words and magically things would happen. The truth is, no, it won't. In fact, my wife and I talk a lot about the words, God can't steer a parked car. God can do anything he wants to. My wife constantly reminds me of that, right? But why would God bother to steer a car that's parked rather than help you steer a car that's moving forward? And that's really the message in those words. So in so doing, obviously Nick's gone on to do many other things with his life, even physically, obviously surfing, as you can see here, swimming and other things. If you follow his story in life, he's an amazing character. And he's fun, he's funny, and he loves life, and he lives it to the fullest. And quite frankly, we should learn to do the same thing. But we have to take ownership of our life in order to do that. So what we need to do is draw a line and step over it. Because if you don't, I promise you nobody else is going to do it for you. That's a fact. You got to stop thinking negative. Oh, I hear this all the time. Jim, you got to be realistic. I mean, really, Jim, not everything works out. Well, I just talked about a guy who was born with no arms and no legs and a young lady who had a shark attack and lost her arm. And he decided to live life to its fullest and find the positive in everything. But you know how some people just want to dwell on everything negative. You've got to stop thinking negative because negative leads to negative results. Thinking negative brings negative and taints what you want. The subconscious mind will never, well, actually it will always deliver what you want, right? Because it doesn't know any better. The subconscious mind believes what it's told. So your actions end up becoming the result of your beliefs, right? Your brain it's a sponge. So in order for you to get where you want to go in your future, you have to determine what is real and take ownership of it and make it happen. Now, I brought this image in because I want to share a little bit about myself. Prior to getting involved in the direct selling industry where I learned everything. I mean, all the books I read, all the audio talks I listened to, all the seminars I went to. I mean, it totally transformed my life. But prior to getting to that point, I was in my mid-20s, and I just believed that I didn't bring anything to the table. I didn't think I had anything to offer. I was a construction worker. I worked with my hands, so I was a blue-collar worker. And I was kind of a loner. I was introverted. When I would have parties at my house, I would go hide. My own house, I would go into the master bedroom and hide out, just kind of hang out, because I just didn't have any self-worth at that point in my life. And I got to tell you, man, once you get to that point where you believe that you're worthy, something snaps inside your head. And all of a sudden, your posture, your attitude, everything about you changes. And I remember that day that it happened to me. I remember I was sitting down, I was talking to somebody. I'd been involved in the business for 2 years at this point, or just under 2 years actually. And I was only making a couple $1,000s a month. So I wasn't even doing that well financially. But something happened. And I began to look at people differently. I used to look at people that had gone to college and wore a tie, that they were above my pay grade, above my ability to lead them, if you will. And I remember sitting down. I remember having a conversation with somebody, and I just realized, you know what? This guy needs me. And from that day forward, my whole mindset, my posture, my business, it just started rocking because I believed in me. You see, positive thinking leads to hope, fulfillment, satisfaction, and joyful spirit, even in the midst of challenging times. Empowerment comes from the acceptance of who you are, along with self-control and a strong desire. So when you think positive, you talk positive, you feel positive, right? So what are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself good thoughts? Are you going to change that? Are you going to draw that line and step over it and start saying nothing but good? I want to share something else. some of the things I was taught in the seminars, the books that I read, and the audio talks that I listened to. When I drive down the road, my car was my rolling university. And one of the things that I was taught to do was to tell myself over and over again that I'm worthy, that I'm great, that I'm somebody that people want to know, I'm attractive, I attract people, I'm a magnet. And I used to do those things and say those things over and over and over again. And the more I'd say them, the more I believed them. The more I said them louder and louder and louder. And of course, I would be driving down the road when I'm saying these things to myself, nobody in the car, of course. And I would scream these words at the top of my lungs. Jim Bellacera is amazing. Everybody wants to do business with Jim Bellacera. Jim's like a magnet. Everybody who finds Jim wants to be with Jim. Blah, blah, blah. That kind of a talk. And I rolled to a stop at a red light, and I was yelling at the top of my lungs about how great I was, right? And I looked over to my right, and I saw this guy looking right at me from his car, and he could see how I was screaming inside my car. Now, I wasn't singing to a song. I was screaming at how amazing I am. And I'm sure he couldn't hear the words, but I'm sure he thought I was a nut. But you know, I have to tell you, as nutty as I must have looked, I became amazing. You know, when people say things like that about themselves, you think, wow, how, insensitive they are, and so on and so forth. Or their ego's so big and all that kind of stuff. The truth is that you have to get yourself to that place. And whatever it takes, you have to do it. And for me, I had to repeat words like, I'm amazing, I'm great, I'm a magnet, I attract people, and so on and so forth. So I could become that person that people would want to be around, that people would want to do business with. You know, you think about how so many people want to take the path of least resistance. They want to try, but they don't want to do it right. They want to play it safe because they don't want to take a risk. You know, think about how a river goes down a mountain. The river always takes the path of least resistance. And an engineer comes along and says, well, we need, in order to take that river straight down the mountain, we need to engineer the mountain in order for it to happen. So they have tunnels dug and trenches dug so the water can flow in a straight path. And what we have to do with our life is decide to engineer our destiny. We need to take control of it because it's our life. Don't listen to stupid people. They're not going to reinforce your dreams. You know, Mark Twain said, never argue with stupid people. They'll drag you down to their level. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. Stupid people are stupid people. And if you think they're stupid, get away from them. Quit listening to them. If they're not offering the support, the emotional support that you need to believe in your dreams and to stay focused on your dreams, you need to get around people that do. That's the bottom line. So stop trying to play it safe, engineer your life, and you need to start working on the most important component. It happens to be you. You see, without risk, there's no reward. When you give other people power over you, you rob yourself of the power that you need to make the changes in your life. Don't listen to someone who gave up on their dreams to talk you out of going after your dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share a really interesting story about my daughter. My daughter, she's an amazing young lady. Well, this is my son and my daughter when they were obviously much, much younger. My son, you can even see there in this picture that he has this certain aura about himself, a confidence. I'm not going to say maturity, but certainly a confidence and a charisma and assurance. My daughter, look at her. She's jovial, excited, happy, go lucky. She walked with a skip in her beat. In fact, she skipped all the time everywhere she went. But as she got a little bit older, we had put both of our children in private Christian school from the time they got into school. And my son, of course, he would always hound me, Dad, can I go to public school? Can I go to public school? Eventually, when he was in high school, we went ahead and allowed him to go into public school. So I think by the time he was a junior, I think it is. And listen, he's a salesman. He was constantly selling me on it. Well, my daughter, she would come home from school and she would complain how nobody likes her. How she's ugly and how there's nobody wants to be around her and just nothing working for her, nothing's right. I mean, just all this negative doomsday stuff, you know. And I would listen to her and I'd say, Brittany, what happened to you? You were this happy-go-lucky girl with all this energy and enthusiasm and love for life. You are so wonderful. People love you. You're gorgeous. And I meant that. I mean, I didn't just say it because she's my child. She's a very pretty lady. Well, as time went on, it got worse and it got worse and it got worse. And eventually, she's in high school. They're only a year and a half apart. And so she's in high school and she's begging us to take her out of the private Christian school and go over to the public school where Justin was. So I finally said, okay, all right, we'll do it. I wanted to make sure that she at least got into high school. She went through at least 1 year in high school in the Christian school. And her first few days in the public school, she was amazing. I mean, she came home from school fired up, excited, big smile on her face, happy-go-lucky. I mean, it was just amazing. And you see, my son, when he went into high school, he's always had this confidence about himself and a charisma and just an assurance. Well, he attracts people. He naturally, and I assume that probably comes from the stuff that, I've been taught to say out loud myself. And he's heard, my goodness, he must have heard 1,000 of the 8,000 talks that I've heard. And he's been to some of my seminars that I've spoke at and seminars that I've been to. So he's heard this information for many, many, many years. And so right when he got into high school, he was immediately around a lot of young kids his age that had a good time with him, loved being around him. In fact, he attracted a lot of young girls around him, obviously the same age. And in fact, when he would come home from school on a Friday, he would say, "Hey, Dad, can we have a party tonight?" Of course, that means pizza and soda and water and so forth. And I'd say, yeah, sure. He could pull it off last second. He could pick up the phone, call his friends, and boom, man, the house is full of young boys and full of young girls, all his age in high school. Unbelievable. Well, of course, my daughter liked that. But what I realized out of that was my daughter was now surrounded by people who actually endorsed her, endorsed the thoughts that she wanted to have. Because I could say it until I was blue in the face, but she spent so much time with people that actually were putting her down. She was so pretty in school that the other pretty girls, put her down because the boys would talk about how much they liked her. And it became a negative for her rather than a positive. Well, today, you can see my daughter. This is my daughter right here. She is gorgeous, beautiful. My son is handsome, intelligent, charismatic. I mean, these kids today, they've taken ownership of their life. They know who they are. They know what they want. And I say this because I wanted you to know that what you want from your life, if you claim it, say it, and associate with the people that help endorse it, you can get anything you want out of life. And so I just want to share this quick story about my kids. So what I want you to do now is what I want you to do right now is I want you to make a list in order of priority, the things in your life that you want to take control of and change. You see here in this list here, it says, I want to serve God, love our spouses, teach our children. And I want to share something with you. This is really important. If you want love, you have to give love, but you've got to love yourself first. Remember, if you want love, you have to love yourself first, and you have to give love in order to get love. And your children. Now, this is important, what I'm about to share with you. If your children are still living at home right now with you, this is critically important. You see, if you don't take ownership of that relationship and teach your children the difference between right and wrong, I promise you that somebody else will. So whoever's going to be in their life that's going to influence their life, they're going to teach them the difference between right and wrong based on the people that are influencing them, whether it fits in what your beliefs are or not. So I really want to encourage you to take ownership of that relationship. So now we're going to talk about a mission statement. So I want you to create a mission statement. This is your own personal proclamation. Your mission statement incorporates your core values, your true loves, desires, and your ambition for all aspects of your life. You have to acknowledge what you stand for in order to know what you fight for. There's a saying that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so that's a very true statement. And all the more reason to make sure that you put together your mission statement. Now, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to use myself in this example. And yours can be whatever you want it to be. But it says here, I, Jim Bellacera, believe that I am worthy of a life of joyful abundance. I will set goals and commit to them and to my accountability partner. I will honor my priorities, putting God and family as my first priority. The desires of my heart is to always make them feel like they're my number one priority and the reason I will work to achieve my dreams and goals, not allowing anything to get in my way. I believe to whom much is given, much is required. Therefore, along with creating the desired lifestyle for my family, I will commit to supporting those in need with my time and money. I also strongly believe that in order to achieve true happiness and success, you must help others to achieve their goals. So, in life, you're either the passenger or you're the pilot. It's your choice. So, I want you to think about what I just said. You're either the passenger or you're the pilot. Who's controlling your destiny? Are you sitting in a passenger seat going with the flow, letting whoever's flying the plane take you where you're going to go? Or are you the pilot in your life, controlling your destiny? I want to thank you for taking the time to go through this lesson. And I want you to know that I look forward to hearing your success story as you begin to share with other people about what you're doing and where you're going with your life and what your dreams and goals are. So with that, I'd like to say, God bless.